Okay, have you answered all the questions? Let's go through the answers. Question 1 was to write a function that prints a list, and you're given an example. So to create a list, we can just call it a list equals, and then we put the numbers in the square brackets. So we need to call a function. So we give it a name. Here we've called it print list, and then we're going to pass the list. So here the list is called a list. So we call the function by print list, and then a list in brackets is what we're passing. We define the function, so we use def, function name, print list. We're passing it a list. That goes in the brackets, and then we have the colon. And then we're just going to print it. So we have print a list. That was question 1. Question 2. Write a function that takes a number as a string and returns the number as an integer. So here we create the string called a string, and at the end we want to print a number. So we're going to call this a num. So we have to call the function. The name here is convert to num. We're going to pass it a string, but we're actually going to return a num. So how do we define the function? So we're calling it convert to num. In brackets we're going to have what we're passing, which is a string, and here we change the string to a number using the type conversion with the string in brackets after int. So that changes the a string into num, which is now an integer rather than a string, and to return it we just use return and then return num. That was question 2. Question 3. Write a function that adds 2 numbers or adds 2 strings. Okay, so let's use the example of 2 numbers. So we have x equals 1 and y equals 2, and we want to add them together. So we're going to have z as the answer. So we're going to call the function add2 and pass it x and y, and z is going to have the answer returned from the function. So we define add2. In brackets we've got 2 things that we're going to receive, which are passed from the function when we called it, and here we're going to call them a and b. So we're going to add them together. So we've got c equals a plus b, and then return c. So that returns c into z, which is the 2 numbers added together. What happens if we want to use 2 strings and add them together, called concatenation? Well, it's the same function. So in this example we have the string hello with a space and the string j, which is world. So we want to put them together. So we do exactly the same thing. We call the function add2 with I and j, and then the answers received back into the variable k, which is a string, and then we print that. So the function's the same, but instead of adding numbers we're concatenating strings. We're putting them together. That was question 3. Question 4. Write a function that doubles an integer using a range of numbers from 0 to 10. Well, perhaps that should be written better, because we want a range of numbers from 0 to 9. We use a range 10, we'll go from 0 to 9. Perhaps you could use range and put 11 in brackets, and that would actually go from 0 to 10. So we put this range in use the range in a for loop. We're going to call the function inside the for loop, and that will give it each number. Remember, we have to send it the number. For this case the for loop uses n, so we send n, and then the answer comes back. We've used the variable dbl, short for double. So again we define the function print double. We're passing it a number, so we use mynum, and we add mynum to itself, and we get the double of that, and then we return that using the word return at the end of the function. And then inside the for loop, because we want to print the statement on each number, we've got the print statement with the number, so it will print the double of 0 is 0, the double of 1 is 2, so on. So that's question 4. Finally, question 5. Write a function that takes a name and splits the name into words using the dot split, and print the first word. So here we've got an example name, John Smith, and we want to print the first name, which we're going to call F name. So we've got F name equals, and then we're going to call the function first name and pass it the string name. So we define the function first name. We're going to receive the name string. We're just going to call it text, and when we use the split function, that creates a list, and we're going to call this list words. You could return this list words. In this example, we just only need the first thing inside the list, which would be using 0 in square brackets. So the list called words, if we use words square bracket 0, is the first element inside that list, which is in this case the first name or the first word. So we return that, and finally the print statement